Hi everyone, this is Yana and I have a new video to share using Simon Says Stamp and Altenew exclusive stamp set. You can purchase this set as a part of STAMPtember release only at simonsaysstamp.com, and there are links to this and other products used in this video in the video description and also on my blog. I'm going to start working on this card by die cutting a birthday frame out of yellow cardstock. I just felt like this would be a good starting point, and this frame would just really work well to anchor my flowers, and it would also help me to build this card if I had the frame pre-cut. The die that I'm using is a birthday frame die from Simon. It's another STAMPtember product, and I happen to really like frames like this one. I've shared another card using a similar frame with the word sunshine on my blog in the past, and I'll have a link to that project if you want to take a closer look. Anyhow, I'm using my Spellbinder's Platinum die cutting machine, and I'm cutting this piece out of yellow cardstock. So now that I have that ready, I can go ahead and start working on my flowers. I'm going to use pink to red ombre ink pad from Hero Arts to stamp the larger flower, and I will be overlapping the colors slightly. Now, I have found that this particular flower works best when stamped using bright, vibrant, even dark colors. It doesn't look so nice when it's stamped in light yellow or lavender, for example. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that colors have to be bold to make this particular flower shine. I'm using two darker colors from my ombre ink pad to ink up the base layer of this flower, and I'm double stamping this layer. I'm actually going to triple stamp this layer later, but for now I'm stamping it once and then inking my image again and stamping it again on top of the previously stamped image to have a darker color. I often like to do this, and because I'm using clear stamps, I can pretty much always align things on top of the previously stamped images. I do mess up sometimes, but most of the time it's okay. I'm also stamping another flower right next to the first one. I did plan to have just one large flower for this card at first, but I ended up using both of these. I just couldn't resist, they are too pretty not to use in a project. Anyhow, next I'm using the second layer and inking it up using medium and light colors of my ombre ink pad. I have to say I am really loving these ombre pads. There's just so much you can do with these. You can stamp small images, you can stamp large images, you can stamp backgrounds, you name it. And you always have that nice variation of color. What is there not to love? Again, I'm double stamping all of my layers for a more vibrant look. And by the way, I'm stamping on my Zutter scoreboard. It probably sounds weird, but my Zutter scoreboard has a nice little black foam pad built into it, and that really helps a great deal when stamping solid images. I was going to buy a specialty foam pad, like a special foam pad for stamping, but then accidentally discovered I already had one in my stash in this scoring board. So I've started using it instead, and I'm so happy I did. It does make it so much easier to stamp. Now for my last layer, I'm using the lightest section of this pink to red ombre ink pad and stamping it to finish my flowers. I am slightly overlapping and grabbing some of that medium color just to make the center of the flower a tad bit darker. So next I'm using my Wink of Stella glitter pen and adding a generous amount of glitter on top of my flower. I have to say I am really happy I bought this pen last year. I was kind of skeptical at first and didn't quite like it, but after I used it for a few times, I started thinking, and I still think, that it's a must-have for a card maker, especially for a clean and simple card maker. It's such a great tool. So after I added my glitter and after my ink had some time to dry, I noticed that the darkest color on my flower wasn't as dark as I had hoped it would. So I grabbed my Hero Arts Royal Red ink pad and my base layer and stamped it yet again onto my flower. So I triple stamped it. This seemed to have really added a nice defined edge to this flower. Next, I started working on my smaller flowers. Again, I stamped two just in case I messed one of those up, and I used Simon Says Stamp Duckling as my latest color, Sunshine as my medium color, and Hockey, which is kind of a green color, for my darkest color. I skipped the last layer and did not stamp it for this flower. There is a little teeny tiny flower center that you can stamp using, I don't know, maybe a darker yellow or pink or even black or, whatever color you like. I did not use it and completely skipped it for this particular flower. I also stamped 2 leaf clusters using catkin, willow, and once again hockey ink colors from Simon. Hockey had to be double stamped as it sort of lost a lot of its color under the layers of catkin and willow. It really blended into the other greens. Next, I fussy cut all of my stamped elements out and arranged them onto on top of my die cut frame. Next, I used Simon Says Stamp A2 top folding card base for this card. Simon also released side folding cards if you like these best, but I'm more of a top folding kind of girl. And these cards are actually super nice and thick. You can use these with Copics, and colors do not, or inks do not actually bleed to the other side of the paper. So these are really nice and thick card bases. Anyhow, after I moved my little floral cluster onto my card base, I decided I wanted to add something to this background, to the background of this card, as it was looking very, very simple, very plain. So in order to remember how I had everything clustered, I took a photo with my phone. This is a nice little trick that I sometimes use whenever I need to remember how I had everything placed. So like I said, I wanted to add something to the background of this card. It looks too plain at the moment. So I'm going to use the leaf cluster image and stamp leaves directly onto the card base. I don't want to spend too much time doing this, so I'm only going to use 2 colors, catkin and hockey, and only 2 layers. I'm stamping my images randomly, creating something for a background. I could have used patterned paper here, but I'm all for making your own stamped patterns and backgrounds, so why not make a super simple background for this card? And by the time I was done, I realized that this stamped background ended up looking too distracting. When I placed my die cut frame and my flowers on top of this background, they got lost. So I used my all-time favorite trick and added a layer of vellum to mute the colors on the background. I could have used the lighter colors to stamp the leaves, but I don't have lighter colors, so I used vellum instead. I used Simon's stitched rectangle die to cut my vellum out, and it really helped to solve the problem, my background problem. I used scrapbook adhesive large foam squares in white and cut them into narrow strips to adhere my die cut frame. I could have cut an identical frame out of fun foam and used that to add dimension like I did in my previous video, but this die cut isn't too detailed, so it was okay to use foam squares to adhere it onto my card. I adhered it on top of my vellum at an angle to create some movement for this project. You'll notice that my vellum is not yet adhered onto the card base. This is because I do not yet know where to add adhesive to hide it. So first, I'm adhering my elements onto vellum, and then I will know where I can hide my adhesive to adhere this vellum panel onto the card base. I'm also using foam adhesive squares from scrapbook adhesive to adhere my flowers, and I'm clustering them next to the die cut birthday. I'm using 2 foam squares thick to adhere the small yellow flower, and finally adding my leaf clusters using glue. I'm using dual tip glue pen from scrapbook adhesives, and I have found that this particular glue dries matte and it holds paper very well. It doesn't work well for sequins, but it works beautifully for paper and cardstock. So now that I've adhered all of my elements onto my vellum, I can flip this vellum panel backside up and I can see where I can add my adhesive to be able to hide it from the front. So I'm using my scrapbook adhesive Grand Adhesive Tape Runner and adding adhesive only where I have something blocking it from the front of my card. So behind the bottom part of the frame, behind the flowers, and behind the top part of the frame as well. Looking at this card now, as I edit this video, I can see that I really like this stamped background. It's nice and classy and clean. It's perfect for a clean and simple card. Just add a little heat embossed sentiment onto a strip of, say, black or green cardstock, add some gold thread, a couple of sequins, and you have a stunning, clean, and simple card. I might just have to go and stamp that after I finish editing this video. We'll see. Finally, I'm going to add some natural May Arts twine. I'm wrapping it around a card front a few times, tying into a bow, and adding a few red enamel dots to finish this project. And here's another look at my card created using Simon Says Stamp and Altenew exclusive STAMPtember set. Supplies used to create this project are listed in the video description and also on my blog. I do have another project posted to my blog. Be sure to take a look if you like. And thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more videos using products from Simon, be sure to check out the link you see on the screen. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I have new card making videos coming out every week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.